Hey guys, welcome back to the Elder Scrolls In-Depth Solo Arena Guide, Part 2, where we look at how to draft. So it's taking me a little longer to get back to this than I would have liked, but better is later than never. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take an in-depth look at how the drafting process works and how you can best optimize your chances of succeeding, because there's a lot of RNG involved in this this process. So I still believe that the best pool that you can get is blue-green, and the worst is like red-blue or red-purple. But, you can still draft a 0-win deck with a blue-green, and you can still draft a 9-win deck with red-purple. But I think you're going to get a few more higher win rates with the blue-green than you will with the red-purple. So, without further ado, let's check out what our options are. So,
the games begin.
Already right off the bat, we've got red in two of our choices, which is something that we don't want, and we've got green in the other two choices. So, we are going to take Monk because I honestly think green is like one of the best choices that you have, and it's not red. This is, I've gotten really, really good results with Monk, so I think we're in good hands here.
Presenting the Monk!
So, the most important things we want to keep in mind when we're doing this draft. We want to make sure that we have a good number of early game cards that we can play on 2, 3, and 4, but we also want to make sure that we have some late game cards that we can draw into to start taking control of the board and start actually making favorable trades. We want to make sure that we have guards. We want to make sure that we have actions that we can use to influence the board to control the shadow lane. We want to have card draw, and we want to have ways to kind of come back from having low life, which luckily yellow and green are the specialists in. So, let's take a look. So I will be talking in depth about each of these picks and why I'm picking certain picks over the others. We've got Elixir of Light Feet, which is a support. You play it on 2 mana, it goes and sits on your bar, just like the Elixir of Magicka. Every time you use it, it gives a creature cover. We've got Malefic Wreath, which gives a creature -2/-2 for... So this is like doing 2 damage for 3 mana. And then we've got Warcry, which gives every creature in one of your lanes +2 attack for just 1 turn. So these are all... I'd argue Malefic Wrath is probably the one to take here. None of these are exceptionally good cards, but out of all of them, I think this one, the Wraith, I keep on saying Wrath, the Wreath is probably the best choice you could go with. The best choice. I'm going to go for that. Tusk Bristleback, it's just a 5 for 5/5, solid body. Giant Bat, which is 3 mana, 2/2, which isn't that good for 3 mana, but it's got Charge and Drain, which means that if you swing in and hit your opponent in the face, that's a 4-point swing. And Sensei Tiger, which is a 4/7 guard. Now, all of these are good cards. The Giant Bat is a really good card that can pull you out from really weird situations, but the Sensei Tiger is exactly what we're looking for our mid to late game cards. Big, chunky guys with guard on them. Like, we want these cards, so we're going to take this card. Now we've got a Giant Bat, Scouting Patrol, which is an action. When you play it, you put 2 1/1 dudes in each lane, and then the Adoran Paladin, which when he's a 4 for 4/4, but when you play an action, he gets drained. So the Adoran Paladin and Giant Bat are both good, but I'd argue the Giant Bat is a little better, honestly, as weird as it is to save for 3 mana 2/2. There's just so many different ways that this guy can save you, and it's really good to have that kind of insurance policy. Well, don't count out the Adoran Paladin, though. He can be good, but we'll take the Giant Bat. Now we've got another Giant Bat, Resolute Ally, which if the top card of your deck when you play him is yellow, he gives everything in your lane +1/+1. Nimble Ally works the same way, except it's a green card, and if it is green, he gets +1/+1 and lethal. Now, both these cards are good, but as I've talked about ally cards, you want to look at these as like just 3/3s for 3 mana. Versus the Giant Bat, the Giant Bat's just better. So if we had more cards and I knew like what color direction our deck was going in, that would influence my decision. But just going off these cards on their raw value, the Giant Bat is much better. So we're going to take another one of those. Thievery, it's an action that when you play it, it deals 3 damage to your opponent's face and gives you 3 health back. Not that good of a card, honestly. Not something that I'd ever really pick. Murkwater Goblin, which is a 0-cost 2/1. On your turn, and then on your opponent's turn, it's just a 0/1, easy to remove. And the Varanus Courier, which is a guard 1/3 for 3 mana, and its last gasp is it draws you a card when it dies. This is a great card. This is exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for. So let's take it. Somerset Shield Mage, it's a 2/2, but it gives, as long as it's alive, it gives all other creatures in its lane, not including itself, an extra bit of toughness. Thieves Guild Recruit, which when you play him, he draws you a card. If the card costs 7 or more, its cost is reduced by 2. Really great card. And Priest of the Moon. It's got Prophecy, so when your rune breaks, you can play this, and you can play it for free. It's a 2/2 for 2, which is okay, and you get 2 health back whenever you play it. So, which one of these do we want? Honestly, these are all pretty good. When you're coming from behind, Somerset Shield Mage is a card that you play when you're ahead and when you have board control to keep that board control. So I think it's between the Thieves Guild Recruit and the Priest of the Moons. Sometimes all you need is that little bit of life, but sometimes all you need is that extra card you can play. So both these are good. I would say that if I had to pick between the two, I would take the Recruit, because I think the guard is a little bit more the extra card is a little bit more useful than the 2 life, although they're both good. And we get our first legendary, and these are all actually not that good. So, Wabbajack, what this does is, it's like the support card. You put it down, and then it transforms any one card into any other card. So this thing is a whole ball of wax of just like randomness. The Nest of Vipers is a 10 mana cost card, and then it lets you fill your lane as much as you can with 1/1 Vipers with charge that have lethal. So this is like, if you have an empty lane and you put this in your empty lane, you get 4 charges of removal, basically. So this can be a really powerful card, but it is a 10 mana card. And Necrom Mastermind, what this guy does is when you play him, he triggers the last gasp of any of your last gasp cards. Right now we only have 1, and honestly, this one might be the only one that we draw. There are no last gasps in Willpower Yellow, so it'd be exclusively from green. Honestly, I think we could take the Wabbajack and just none of these are actually really that good. I would say, like, just on its own, the Nest of Vipers might be good, but let's go for RNG and make this interesting and take the Wabbajack, and just to see. I mean, it could be a good form of removal if our opponent plays a really nasty creature and like, we got to get rid of this now, we can turn it into something else, hopefully weaker. Yeah, we'll take, none of these are exceptionally good, but I'll take this for the interesting RNG. Wild Beast Caller, which it's 6 mana 3/4, but summons any animal. It can be any animal in the entire pool, so this is a huge pool of cards. It could be a 2/1, it could be like a 3/3, it could be something probably even crazier, like a Sensei Tiger is considered an animal, so you could summon a Sensei Tiger. There's a lot of RNG with this guy. Imperial Might is really slow, but every turn that you play it, after you play this, including the turn you play it, you get a 1/1 Imperial Grunt. And then the Murkwater Skirmisher just is a 4 for 4/4, and it gives all their friendly goblins +2/+2. So, which one of these are we going to pick? Not the Beast Caller, so it's between the Skirmisher and the Imperial Might. There are some really good goblin cards that we would be interested in taking, and just having a 4 for 4/4 isn't that bad. Imperial Might actually gives us a form of not. The problem is that unless we build around having like a bunch of little 1/1s, having a bunch of little 1/1s isn't going to make that big of a difference if we're behind. So, well, actually, you know what? I might even take the Beast Caller. Now that I think about it, I don't think we're going to take Imperial Might because it's too slow, and like I said, we have to build around it. Like, just having a bunch of endless 1/1s, unless we have cards that can take advantage of it, we're not going to be able to. And the Murkwater Skirmisher is just a 4 for 4/4. This could potentially be something amazing. So I'm going to go back on what I said. We're going to take this as one of our big bodies. Murkwater Witch is one of those goblins that we were talking about that's really, really good. When you play him, he's a guard for 1/1, which isn't that great for 2 mana, but when you summon him, he can basically do a free curse and reduce a creature's effectiveness by 1/1, which is really, really powerful. The Aldemir Patriot, which if you have an action in your hand, he's a 2/3, otherwise he's a 1/2. And the Snow Wolf, which if you control the most creatures, he's a 3/3, otherwise he's a 1/3. The Witch is the obvious clear choice here. It's got both guard and a really fast effect. Imperial Legionnaire is just a 3/4 body. 3/4, he's just solid. The Bruiser is a 3/2, which is 2 less health, but it has Pilfer, so if it hits the opponent in the face, he actually gets another 3 attack. And the Dwarven Spider is just a 0/3 with guard. Now, I said guards are important, but not these kinds of guards. Like, we're not interested in that. So, I am going to take the Bruiser, honestly, even though the stats are better than the Legionnaire. This gives us a win condition, and we have a way of making this card better. A 6/2, in my opinion, is a lot stronger than a 3/4, even though it's a little slow to set up. And this could potentially even become a 9/2 if our opponent doesn't address it. So we're going to take that card. Execute, destroy a creature of 2 power or less, really powerful. Reaper, give all enemy creatures in this lane -1/-1, also really powerful. But another Sensei Tiger, I cannot deny the power of the Sensei Tiger. This guy can literally save you from the abyss, and he is essential to controlling the board. So we're going to take another one of these, even though honestly all these cards are really, really good and would find a nice place in my deck. Ageless Automaton, it's a 0/5, but when it attacks guard, it gets +3 in breakthrough, so it becomes a 5/5. Kind of conditional. Warcry, we've already talked about that. And then Murkwater Savage. This used to be a 2-mana 2/2. It got nerfed into a 3-mana 2/2. But considering our deck right now is mostly green cards, it's still pretty effective. And so we'll take this as a way to buff it. We're looking good on 3s right now. Malefic Wreath, we already have one of those. Legion Shield, which is a way to get guard on the board. And Ransack, which it's a prophecy card, so it can be played when a rune is busted. You deal 3 health and you deal 3 damage and you get 3 health back. You can actually target creatures with this, but taking up 6 mana to get rid of a 3 health creature usually is not going to be worth it. Sometimes it will, but usually not. But I think the Legion Shield is where we want to go. Like, getting guard online, always important. This helps keep our creatures sticking on the board. The Kathy Rat Veteran, I hope I said that right, is a 1/5. Not that impressive. The Edoran Paladin, already talked about that. He's pretty solid. And then the Shadow Shift is kind of a utility card. We're going to take the Paladin because we need the 4s right now. We need some mid-game stuff going on. The Helgen Squad Leader, when another creature attacks, this gets +1/+0. Really good in aggressive decks, which this is not so far. The Skirmisher, again, like a really solid card, especially since we've got 2 goblins now. The Cameron Scout Leader, for every wounded creature in the lane, you summon a 2/2 Wood Elf Scout with charge. This guy is really conditional. This guy requires aggressive cards. This is just like a solid 4/4, and we do need 4/4s, so we'll take him. He can buff 2 of our goblins. The Daring Cutpurse is a 2/2 for 2 mana. He's got Pilfer, which means every time he hits the opponent, he's going to get 1 offense, 1 defense, so become slightly more powerful. And he's got Prophecy, where he can be played when a rune is broken. The Adzil Invader, which is a 5/3 for 5 mana. An Arrow in the Knee, which is good for destroying 1 health creatures, which there are going to be a couple of them. Good for breaking wards, and it can shackle an opponent, which means it basically holds it in place. This can be a way to deal with a creature in the shadow lane, because you essentially ping it for 1 and hold it in place until its cover wears off, and then you can remove it next turn. However, we do need more 2-mana creatures, honestly, and this fits the bill nicely, so we'll take him. Highland Lurcher is just a 7/5 body. Dwarven Sphere is a 2/3 for 3 mana, which isn't that great, but you can shackle, which is a really powerful effect. However, Barded Gar is a 3/3 that can give anything, including itself, guard, and you always need more guards, so we're taking this. Clear winner here. Our 3 drops are looking really good. We're looking to fill out our late game and our early game a little bit more, though. So, the Riverhold Escort, another guard, and he's a 1/6, which isn't that impressive. He's just like a body that you put down. And if he hits the opponent's face, his Pilfer is that he moves to the other lane. So you can move him around by hitting the opponent in the face. Pretty interesting. Pretty flexible. Dune Stalker, he's got Prophecy, so he can be played when a rune is broken. When you play him, you can swap a creature over to the other lane. He is a 3 for 1. He is a possible 2-drop. But the Deshaun Avenger is actually a really strong 4-drop. 3/3 for 4 mana isn't good, but its last gasp, the fact that it resummons itself as a sneak, is really, really powerful. It helps you keep board control, and it's a possible combo with our Wabbajack. We can trade in, it dies, and then we can turn into something else, maybe something more useful. So we'll take that. We do need the 4 drops. Now we've got Finish Off, which is destroy any wounded creature. We've got Ferocious Dreg, whatever, a 3/5 for 4, which is okay, and the Adoran Paladin, which, as we talked about, is just a solid body. And he's got the added effect that he's got Drain whenever we play an action, which I believe we only have 1 action right now. So we're going to take the Finish Off as a form of removal. You're always looking for good strong forms of removal. And while slightly conditional, this is one of those ways. So we will take him, and we'll love him, and hopefully he'll get us some big beefy guys in the enemy's graveyard. Priest of the Moon, Thieves Guild Recruit, Sensei Tiger. Honestly, you can never get enough Sensei Tigers. As good as these two cards are, I think the Sensei Tiger is better. Like you can have the best early game deck in the world, but it doesn't matter if you don't have any late game to draw into for stalling. So we're gonna take the Tiger again. Murkwater Savage, Territorial Viper, which is a 4. It's like basically it's removal. It's a 1/1 for 4 mana, which is awful, but it's got charge and lethal, so anything it attacks is gonna die. However, Hive Defender, 3/6 with guard. That's nice. Another really big chunky guard. And honestly, the way how this deck is looking right now, we just need bodies. Like removal is good, but we need the bodies to protect to get that advantage in the first place. So it's between the Viper and the Hive Defender. And honestly, I think I'm gonna take. If it were any other card, I'd probably take the Viper. And it's really, you could pick either one of these and do pretty well, in all honesty. But I'm gonna take the Hive Defender. Even though, well, no, let me think. We got the Wabbajack. We got the Malefic Wreath. We've got Finish Off. This is a really tough choice. I'm gonna take the Defender. That was not an easy decision. Execute, we talked about this before. You destroy any creature with 2 power or less, really strong, healing potion. This is a good way to get back into the game, but it doesn't improve your board position at all. It does have Prophecy, so you can play it on a Broken Rune. Or Kavat Soldier, which is both a 2-drop, which we need, and a guard, which we need. We're taking this guy. Yeah. Frenzied Witchman, he's a 2/1, which is awful for 3 mana, but he gives another creature +2/+1, so that's pretty powerful. The Ally, which we're actually looking like we've got mostly green cards, so it could be pretty powerful. Giant Bat, which we already have 2 of, but you can never have too many. So now the question is, which one of these do we... Let's see. Let me do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. So this guy has about a 60% chance of going off. That's not that great. The Giant Bat, let's just take another Giant Bat. Can't have too many Giant Bats, man. Sunhold Medic, it's a 1/1, but when it gets put down, it gives any creature, including itself, +2 defense, so it can become a 1/3. The Chiddenhouse Sapper, which is a 1/3 with Drain, so all the damage it does is going to come back to you as health, which is 1 of it. But the Mournhold Guardian, even though it's just a 2/1, it does have guard, and every little bit of guard can help, especially when it's attached to a deck. So we're going to take this guy. Black Sat Protector, it's just a Prophecy guard 3/3 because it's got Prophecy when a guard breaks. These are all Prophecy cards, actually. And they're all actually pretty good. If we needed more 3 mana creatures, I'd take the Black Sat Protector in a heartbeat. Dark Harvester can be really slow. However, the health gain can save your life. Spider Worker, I don't think I'd ever take Spider Worker. So right now it's between the Dark Harvester and the Black Sat Protector. Honestly, hard to say. Both do the same amount of things, but this one costs a little less, gets you a little bit of life. And we do have lots of really awesome ways to get life back, at least. And there is some synergy between the Wabbajack and the Dark Harvester. But we're going to take the Black Sat Protector, just because, 3 mana, so we're going to be more likely to play it. Execute another Sensei Tiger, Ravenous Crocodile, and so can you have too many Sensei Tigers? Question. And the answer is probably not. Oh, right. Daring Cutpurse, Terrace Reaper, and Shadow Shift. It's between the Cutpurse and the Reaper, and we don't have a Reaper yet. If we took the Reaper, it'd be kind of greedy, but it would also cement our late game. And while our early game is not great, we only have 1, 2, 4, 5. You know what? We'll take the Cutpurse because there's only 3 more picks after this. And as good as the Reaper would be, I want to make sure that we have a good solid, and that gives us a good solid, especially since now we can pick between more conditional cards like Warcry, which we're not going to, Elixir of Conflict. When we put this thing on the board, we activate it, it gives a creature +1/+1, which is better than it seems, or drain, and +1/+1. So, when do we want? Elixir of Conflict can be really slow to play, but it can also be, if you can get it to stick, it can make a huge difference, especially if we were to attach it to one of these 3 giant bats, or the Adoran Paladin, or the Snake Tooth Necklace. I think, honestly, we are going to take the Elixir of Conflict. And I'm saying, normally I pick the Snake Tooth Necklace, but we've got 3 giant bats, man. We've got a position to get lots of drain going on. We're in a position to get lots of value off of it to buff our guards. So we'll take that guy. Dawnstar Healer, it's a 3/3 for 3 mana. When you destroy an enemy rune, you gain 3 health. The Dajrat Mystic, which when it attacks your opponent's face, you draw a support card. It's a 4/4. And then the Stronghold Incubator, which when it dies, it draws you 2 random Dwemer, which includes the 0/3 guards that we saw earlier, so it could be total crap. But as far as we do have, this is something that we can play on 5 mana, 4/4. It's okay. And if it hits, it will draw us either our Elixir of Conflict or our Wabberjack. We've got plenty of 3s, so Dawnstar Healer really isn't an option. It's between these 2. We could get utter crap from Incubator, because the Dwemer pool of cards is not that... It's got some good ones, it's got some really bad ones. If we could get the Dajrat Mystic off, we could draw into some really cool stuff. We do have the Elixir, and we do have the Wabberjack. And it is just a little bit more powerful. It's a 4/4 for 5, so we can use it for trading. Whereas the Incubator is a little bit slow. So we'll take the Mystic. And now for our last pick, we get to decide if we want the 2 Moons Contemplation, which it's a support card. When we put it down, if our opponent doesn't damage us, we get 2 Priests of the Moon in both lanes, which are both 2/2s, and they give us 2 health. So 1/2/2 in each lane, plus 4 health is what this means. Cliff Racer, which is a 5 mana, 4/4 with charge, or the Eastmarch Crusader, which is a 4/2, but if we've broken a rune, he draws us a card, which... honestly, so we're not going to take the 2 Moons, because if we're behind and our opponent's head on board condition, this does nothing. So it's between the Eastmarch Crusader and the Cliff Racer. The Cliff Racer is one of our it is basically like a really powerful form of removal. 5 mana for 4 damage, and you may or may not get a creature that sticks on the board after, which has synergy with our Wabberjack. However, Eastmarch Crusader is also really, really powerful. It basically draws you a card if you only need to break 1 rune. And we only have the Thieves Guild Recruit as a way to draw cards. Well, no, we've got the Courier, and maybe something from Caller, but probably not. So, what do we need? Because we are good on 3s, like we are super good on 3s. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we've got 8 things that we could just play on 3, and then 2 kind of conditional things we could play on 3. That puts me more towards picking the Cliff Racer, honestly. So that's what we're going to take. And there we go. So there is our draft. Looking pretty solid, honestly. If the only thing that, I would have asked for if I could have gotten is possibly some more actions, especially since we do have the Adoran Paladin. But we do have some good early game. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures that could just be played on... Wait, is that right? Okay, I would have liked to have drawn maybe a little more early game for the 2 mana, but that'll work. Like that's bare minimum what you're looking for. But you don't want to have too many, because then your deck will be too weak and you won't be able to keep up in the mid game. But for that's a pretty good minimum right there. So we've got 6 things that we can just play on turn 2. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards we can play on turn 3, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cards we can play on turn 4. That's totally fine. How many guards do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 guards. Maybe 11. So guards were looking really, really good. We got some really strong late game in the form of these Sensei Tigers, and possibly in the Wild Beast Caller. Dodgy Rot Mystic, Cliff Racer. The place where we're lacking is kind of removal. We're a little weak on our early game, and we're lacking some removal cards. So we might struggle a little bit at the start, and we might have trouble dealing with like really big creatures. I guess we're going to be relying on our Wabbajack if we can draw it. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty solid deck. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative, and I hope you liked me going over every detail in excruciating detail. In the next video, I will be talking about how to go about doing the draft, some of the tips that you can use to maximize your results, some of the more, I would say, some of the better approaches to the game to maximizing your wins. And then I'll be talking about if it's worthwhile to continue to pursue Soul Arena once you've gotten to rank 1, as I am. Thank you very much. And most importantly, at the very end, I'll be talking about ways I think that Soul Arena can be improved to make it better. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm TwinkleButt, and I will see you later.